Lance by Chance. The untold story of him wrestling as of on Earth. LanceByChance.com.
Welcome to Working Fans Wednesday, episode 23. I will be joined shortly by the man they call Dave, AJ Strangebrew, and friend of the show, author Jake St. John, whose new book, Night Full of Diamonds, not Night Full of Stars, like I said last week, is currently available on Amazon. We will be talking all things Undisputed Era, as well as tonight's MLW, AEW, and NXT cards. Now, you can find us on our social medias, in addition to the ones listed there. On Twitch, we are Fans Working. Our Facebook page is the Working Fans Wrestling Podcast Facebook page. Our email, workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. Our YouTube is youtube.com/c/workingfanspodcast. /workingfanswrestlingpod. Sorry, I had to think about that there for a second. Our website, workingfanspodcast.com. Our podcast schedule is our comedy podcast releases every Tuesday, while our wrestling podcast releases every Thursday. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Cast, any major podcast provider. The important thing you got to do, no matter where you listen to us, is like, rate, review, subscribe, anywhere you can.
Told you I'd raise the bar. Told you that I go far. So come and check me out now.
Now, we are brought to you by 482 Designs. You know, they've printed up our shirts, our stickers. That's FOUR82designs@gmail.com. Email them and get quotes on any of the screen printing needs that you may need. You've seen JD Sloan on the show. He is at WrestleTopia on Twitter and WrestleTopia on Facebook. You know, we're the newest commentators for Renegade Wrestling, Knockout Wrestling, whatever you want to call us. Go to their Pro Wrestling Tees store, grab a shirt, tell them you support the guys. And you saw the commercial at the beginning of the show, Lance by Chance. That is written by Vinnie Berry and Lance Vaughn. It's the story of how Kevin Vaughn became Lance Von Erich and then became Lance Vaughn after that. It includes his life before wrestling, his time in the business, and the wild life he has lived outside of it. I would say it's arguably a book that wrestling fans and non-wrestling fans alike could enjoy. Now, you know we are brought to you by The Buzz. That's our podcast network, our podcast family, if you will. I want to play a quick commercial showing you the assortment of live shows that they do over there. And after this, we will welcome Jake St. John, author of Night Full of Diamonds, and we will discuss all things Undisputed Era.
Bring your neck, they can credit yours. Till we see the confetti pour, be ready for war. Tell them next we'll be ready for war. Tell them next we'll be ready for war. Bring your neck, they can credit yours. Till we see the confetti pour, be ready for war. Tell them I'm ready in the opponent. The crown heavy and every minute it shows. A path only fit 4 kings. You don't know what this court means. What did you in this for? If it isn't get more rings, you gon' have to switch your teams. Trust me, it gets more mean. I'm a nightmare going in for these short dreams. First step is broken like a vomit. Bet if I let it fly, if not miss, 10 when you getting clamped all night by your locksmith. On the block, the rocks, my top big. I'm a chef, no look with the top dish. Tie game, feel the pressure with the clock.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that psychedelic intro.
Yeah, baby.
We got the art of Jake St. John, Night Full of Diamonds, and we got the man himself here. First off, how's everybody doing tonight? Jake, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
No problem.
Jake is a long-time wrestling fan too, right? I mean, it's like this isn't like a hard thing for him.
He's clearly also joining us from parts unknown.
Exactly. Part of the studio.
Wearing the Minoru Suzuki shirt. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, guys, tonight we are going to be talking Undisputed Era because WrestleMania weekend is right around the corner. TakeOver is one of the biggest matches, O'Reilly versus Cole. How long have all you guys been aware of everybody in the Undisputed Era?
Oh God, Ring of Honor days for sure. I didn't see a lot of their PWG stuff. Like I know Cole and O'Reilly and Strong were all big over there along with Fish. But one of the first Ring of Honor shows I ever went up to was in Rhode Island, and it had Fish and O'Reilly on there as Red Dragon. So.
That's probably my favorite team of the group. I always enjoyed Red Dragon. I like that style. It reminded me a lot of the strong style from Japan. I like the combinations of moves and the fact that both of them have that realistic just background is amazing to me.
When they came in to NXT the first time, though, like I think Fish and O'Reilly both, I don't know if they were given tryout matches, but they both had matches on TV. Nothing was really done with them, but
they both lost to the same guy week after week.
It was like good offense, and then it was funny because then Cole, basically they jumped Drew McIntyre, and I just remember they were all together. It's like, whoa, okay, we are doing a big deal with these guys. AJ's he's had enough.
He had enough of your bullshit. He's like, I'm getting out of here. I don't believe this.
Yeah, he's going to look it up, but that's what happened.
Now, what's crazy is O'Reilly and Cole debuted in 2010 as Future Shock.
Yes.
And I wasn't familiar with them then.
I only found out about them, I think it was an American Wolves, and then from there, Red Dragon. They were feuding. Or there might have been a match in Japan, American Wolves against Red Dragon, and then carrying over to Ring of Honor. Like Adam, like AJ, like you said, the whole the strong style. They just were a unique team with just a different style of offense. And I immediately, and like Dave, like you just said, coming on NXT, that first, I think O'Reilly debuted first. When he lost, I was like, that's what they're going to do with them. I was really bummed because I figured with NXT, I had good faith in them, and then it all worked out pretty well. I think.
To be honest with you, one of the teams that they remind me of the most was, for you longtime fans, Furnace and LaFon.
Yes.
They very much reminded me of that style that you saw in the late 90s from those two. Not necessarily their WWE run, but their time in Japan.
They did a lot of stuff too. I mean, similar, like I would say, like the Midnight Express with the high-low. Even Anderson's working body parts and stuff like that. But
the
just their own little
too.
Twist. Yeah. Oh yeah, the Eliminators.
Very
Absolutely.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. So just so much.
They were like
stuff.
they were like the Eliminators without the steroids.
And O'Reilly, you can see that heavy MMA training that he goes through, like
Jiu-Jitsu.
very present in his style.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think Bobby
absolutely.
Fish has the greatest wrestling nickname, the Infamous.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
the
that's
greatest
fantastic.
wrestling mustache, I think.
Yep.
I believe Bobby Fischer comes from that Rochester area also, somewhere around that area up in that upstate New York, where a lot of those guys learn to work that single body part, work that same style of wrestling, and a lot of good training up there.
You know, too, one guy we're not talking about too is Roderick Strong. To me, like the messiah of the backbreaker, right? Like I remember his early TNA days, and I thought he was the man. And it was funny, like when he first got to NXT, he was another one. I'm like, he was winning matches, but I was like, I don't know. But man, when he turned on, oh God, the big guys he was winning at War Games there.
Authors of Pain.
Authors of Pain.
Yeah.
Why did I mess that up with an author on our show? But you know, they had that, and like he went over to the Undisputed Era. Like then it was like, okay, now he's cooking. And to me, all these guys just click so well together.
By the
Yeah.
way, if I'm going into a War Games match, I'm taking Randy Osgood with me.
And
Yeah,
Randy has a
what's
good
going on, Randy?
point that they did make the NXT version of the War Games because they've been in every one
Yeah,
and they've put on a hell of a performance in each one.
sure.
And it was nice because when you saw all those ROH guys come together, you're like, thank God. Like, I was worried that something was going to be lost in their style in NXT or in the WWE system overall. But
I
they
worry about
did
the
right
future
by
of
them.
them. Yeah. Like,
I was
they've
gonna
had
say, I
such a great run in NXT, but they've done everything. And now we're coming to the climax. And I think it's built so well. And Cole, he's always been the man. But O'Reilly, to me, really has stepped up with these matches with Balor. And now we're just cooking and we got this feud. And they're doing such a great job with it. And I love it. And I look forward to it. And Peacock, you got my money. I'm going to watch this. But, like, I worry about the end, like, after this is over. You know?
Yeah,
I
where do
like
they go
how-
from here?
I like how Kyle O'Reilly, his look, how he's adapted his look since definitely drawing a line between Undisputed Era and now where Kyle's at. It'll be interesting to see where the character goes.
He kind of reminds me of the game, right? With the jean jacket and everything like that, a little bit back in the day. Yeah. Good, AJ.
Yeah, that's no. I was just gonna say I don't want to see them go up until Vince is dead. I
Vince
see
nowhere.
them considering, and I don't want to bring up Raw because Raw's the drizzling shits. But the one highlight that we've had on Raw is the Hurt Business, and the fact that they broke them up this quickly to me is absolutely sickening. And I have no doubt whatsoever that Vince would have no idea what to do with the Undisputed Era.
Yeah, and we gotta hope if they're going to the main roster, at least for whatever reason. I don't know what they're doing on SmackDown, but for some reason you have a better chance there. So hopefully some writer, maybe Daniel Bryan or somebody, would be able to help these guys out, because that's to me where they have a shot, is if they're working programs with a guy like Bryan, and maybe we have audiences back by then, and maybe Vince McMahon thinks he invented the crowds by then because he's seen how I'm like, wow, these people like these guys. We should respond, and it'll be a new thing for Vince because it's been gone for so long. That's our one hope, guys. We have to hope.
Now, I think we should try to actually rank the Undisputed Era, see where they're going.
Sure.
I think we can all agree that unfortunately Bobby Fish right now is fighting a battle that he can't win. Father Time's starting to catch up with him. He is a little bit older than the other three, and I think the injury bug and age is just starting to get to him.
I think injuries too. Yeah. If we're gonna put Bobby Fish at 4, and we're at then just based on the profile of everything right now, I think Strong has got to be 3. But he's a guy I could see.
But is Roderick Strong at 3 because of how he's not been used, or is he at 3 because of ability? Because to me, like you talked about earlier, Roderick Strong has been a star since the first time I saw him.
Well,
I loved him with Austin Aries.
It's hard to decide between ability and booking because, I mean, look who our 1 and 2 is right now. The guys that are at the top of the NXT card.
You know, ability is a separate conversation. Ability is separate because all 3 of them are very talented. Yeah.
But if I had told you 2 years ago that Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole would be the 2 feuding for that top spot, would you have thought it wouldn't be Roderick
No, I would have thought him
Strong?
Strong. You know, I'm not mad at it because I really love that O'Reilly stepped up.
Me too.
He's the guy. Yeah.
I enjoy Roddy. There's just something that I don't want to say because he is fantastic. But when I see him, he seems like the everyman, not the star. When you see Adam Cole, you're like, that guy, he's the world champ. Roddy,
he's got charisma, but he doesn't have that frontman charisma. He's like a good bassist or a drummer where he'll keep your rhythm section, but
there are certain people that just have that it factor where you can't take your eye off them. One of them is Walter. Walter, you just can't, for whatever reason, you cannot take your eye off him. Another one is in NXT UK. They have Ilya Dragunov. Dragunov, to me, there's just something about him that I want to watch him wrestle.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
And Finn Balor, same thing.
Cross. I like Cross.
Oh, absolutely.
Cross has a look too, though. But that's an interesting thing now. Who has the best? Cole's the best on the mic. Who's got the best look in terms of it factor when you walk in the room? Goes, that's a star. O'Reilly's
Cole-
kind of creeping up on there for me a little
O'Reilly's
bit. Because,
creeping
yeah.
up. Adam Cole
He
is
he
the
is
star in pro wrestling.
right.
I was gonna say I agree with you. I think he is creeping up there. But you talk about it factor. Adam Cole, when he just comes into the room, and think about the size bracket
Mhm.
for WWE, he is not a large person whatsoever. Even for an average human being, he's not necessarily a large person. But when he enters a room, you just have that feeling this guy's a superstar, whether he's doing that Bay thing or whatever, which I know isn't necessarily our favorite part, but the guy's just a superstar.
A funny story I'll share with you guys. My ex-wife and I. That's right. So I'm gonna. This is. I'll come from the heart here, right? She went to that wrestling event. Jake knows I'm talking about a few years ago. And just to give you an idea of the star power, though, the next day she doesn't remember shit. She doesn't watch wrestling. This is what I get, though. Adam Cole, baby. And I'm like, what? Who did she remember? Adam Cole. Who stuck out? Who was the star? It was Adam Cole.
Dave, that's because that's
because
your wife wanted to fuck Adam Cole.
Well, I have no problem with that. I get that. I might have facilitated that.
that show, Dave. Do you know the background on that? What was going on the way to that show?
Mm-mm.
I don't know if we ever talked about it. So my brother and Mike, we would go up to the shows all the time. We would go to New, we'd go to NXT,
Yeah.
and we'd always talk about high school, college, things like that. Watching the shows with everybody. I wonder what's going on with everybody. I wonder how Dave is. And we're like, oh, man. So that one night in particular, we were talking about Dave and AJ and just like all the old wrestling and like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could like get in touch with everybody? And
That's so funny.
so
We should try that sometime.
we get into the show. We go to our seats, and who's sitting directly in back of us is Dave and his wife.
You're welcome.
And I swear I'm Minoru Suzuki. The entire car ride, we were just reminiscing the whole time. And we walk into our seats, and there he is. We're like, that's why I think when you saw us, we were so shocked because it was such a topic of conversation.
Dude, I got to share one other thing with you.
You guys were eyeballing his wife.
That's what he's I got to share.
Keep your eyes off, fellas.
I think it was more shock of him having a wife.
I'm a salesman, all right? I'm able to reach to the top once in a while. Listen, guys, I got to tell you a little funny story about that, though, because even more crazy than that, the fact you guys had that conversation, we actually went with a buddy of ours, Kristen, and what was funny about that was he bought the tickets in advance, and we both ended up going because two people fell out, and he had 2 extra tickets. So we weren't even supposed to be there at night. We ended up there that night, and we ended up sitting behind these guys who were obviously talking about the past. So that's pretty cool. Yep. I had no idea.
Look where we're at now.
Yeah,
the problem was
podcast. You're an author. We're running the show, baby.
The problem is Dave's behind him the whole time, going, "Hey, tall guy, sit the fuck down."
What the fuck? I can't watch that.
Now, speaking of being an author, Jake wrote "Night Full of Diamonds," available now on Amazon, and Jake was going to read a couple poems for you, and I think AJ was even going to bust one out.
Let's do Jake first, because
that way I don't read the same poem.
Right. We wouldn't want your skill. That's definitely what it is.
I know we'd hate to ruin your plans that you laid for this one, AJ.
I don't want to make the author look bad.
Absolutely. Take your time, man.
This is a poem in your absence, so I don't need to give a backstory on it. In your absence, I spend my minutes looking towards the moon, a waning crescent, a sliver in the night. You there in the north woods and me here in the hills of my birth. I think of you below maritime stars, eyes lit like a field of mayflowers. I stand by my pit of fire, flames kissing the night as I would your neck. My heart in your hands, one defends and the other conquers. You've conquered all of me. I lay myself down before you like a vast tilled field, ready to be sown. You have dug your fingers into the meadows of my heart. You've planted your seeds. Come fall, we'll harvest grain. And that's in your absence.
Nice.
I love it, man. Passion. You actually knocked
really good.
AJ off for a second.
I started to get teary-eyed, so I had to cut out for a moment.
Understandable.
He shows no emotion on this show, folks.
That was good. That was really good, man. You can tell your passion comes out in that. That's awesome to hear. AJ
Well, I
is the
think-
future of poetry. Like,
Well,
exactly.
well, the thing about authors and the thing about when it comes to poetry is we can get whatever interpretation we want. It's like, to me, it's like artwork. You feel how you feel about the words that somebody wrote, and it's not necessarily trying to figure out what they felt when they were writing it, but it's how it brings emotion out of us. And when I was reading this, because I got this a couple days ago, and when I started reading it, it was what it started to draw out of me. And as you know, I'm not the most emotional person in the world. Not, I know that's shocking, but it's one of those things where
Watch a
I'm just
movie
going,
with him, though.
yeah, that's true. If I start going through page after page after page, I just felt a connection to the different things that I was reading.
And that's it. So
Now, you were telling us before we got it on air that there's almost like a narrative through the book. Was that something intentional, or was that just when you brought everything together, you started seeing a through line that you were like, oh, wow.
Yeah, when the poems were coming together, they all kind of came from the same creative burst, with different things happening in my life and ending up in a cabin alone and everything, thinking about people that weren't around and reaching out, sending poems and letting them know I was thinking about them. And it kind of, when I collected the poems and put them together, I could see the narrative. Not to mention like starting a new relationship and COVID and getting together, and things are difficult. So there was a lot of communication through poetry. And so there is kind of that start to finish line, almost like telling the narrative, telling a story, like I don't want to say, I don't know, almost like the birth of a relationship, like the whole love story, the courting, all of that.
Nice.
Awesome.
Now, I realized when reading the book that we actually featured a couple of the poems because you were throwing us readings every now and then. I think it was November, December. And I was like, holy shit, I've read this before, or like I've heard it before. And it was wild to see that they made it into the book.
Yeah, when I was singing those poems, I was working on this. I was getting things taken care of. So being able to read them out loud, I mean, with COVID and everything, normally the way it would work, like I'd write a couple of poems, I'd go to a poetry reading, I'd read them out loud, I'd gauge response and things. But with COVID, there was no, you can read online and everything, but you're not getting that immediate feedback. So when I was able to read them, record them, I could listen to them, send them to you, get feedback, things like that. That was really a helpful process. And hearing it, because there are a lot of times like when reading the poem, you can just like a song where you're missing a note or something. When I'm reading it out loud, I can say, all right, I need something to bridge the gap here, and it's disrupting the flow. So that was really helpful. And I was actually thinking about that today, that I gotta get some more to you guys. I haven't sent any in a while.
You know what's funny? Wrestling, comedy, characters, and now you're talking about poetry too. Isn't it funny how like real life events create the best art? You know what I mean? Like you just can't manufacture stuff. Like that's it. That's where like the real pain or the real happiness, that's where all the best work comes from, right?
Yeah, I've told my students many times that when you're writing anything, especially poetry, you have to be honest. If you're gonna lie and you're gonna try to create something that,
speaking of being honest, AJ got the fuck out.
Yeah, you know what,
This be for me, brother. That's not gonna work for me.
Talk about burning up in church over here or something like that.
But yeah,
no, yeah,
people they'll see through. If the emotion isn't honest, then people will see through it. So
1,000%. I think too, and like just bringing it to wrestling too. Like that's why we always thought those real characters, like those real rivalries, like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, right? Because we knew there was a little bit disliked there. So whenever they stepped in, it was almost like, oh, what's gonna happen tonight? You don't know, right? Yeah. Yep. So it just made for like better stuff. But AJ, I think if we can rely on you while we got a chance before we preview tonight's show, go ahead.
Give us a dramatic reading, and then we'll get one more of Jake's picks.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. A forest of thought. I really felt connected to this one. The tree has no political allegiance, but stands strong and rooted, firm not for beliefs, but for life. To me, that actually, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, I just felt a special connection to that because I think sometimes we forget that it's just the love of life that we're living for, and it's not all the bullshit that's happening from day to day. And I think that that's just absolutely amazing.
Man,
God,
shit.
right
You
when
got- you got
you're
real.
a bullshit artist, you come out deeper than the
You
ocean.
got something fucking real. What the fuck? We weren't ready for that.
No, and that's genuine. Like you said before, you could tell like AJ
Yeah.
kicks out a sentence and he means it. Like that was from the heart.
That's why
So,
I needle him all
so-
the time, by the way, on this
so-
podcast, because he knows like he's bullshit. And I'm gonna like, I'm gonna fuck with you now.
So little known fact, with my wrestling background and stuff like that, I can be a little carny at times. However, there when it comes to poetry, when it comes to reading, when it comes to things of artwork, there is definitely a different side to me.
And that's why we're happy to bring on Jake, why we were happy to have on Vinny Barry, the guys from Hip Hop for the Homeless, because we love talking wrestling. Obviously, we like comedy too. But when you can support fellow artists and people that create and give that platform, it's just awesome.
yeah, I really
Well,
appreciate it.
Well, not only that, but I mean, let's go behind the curtain here for a second. We've known Jake for what? Goddamn, 30 years.
Yeah, that's a while. I don't think we're that
So-
old yet, but yeah, that's
It's got to be somewhere in that ballpark. I mean, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, because I think we played
25.
ball or something together.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be 40. I'm gonna be 45 this year.
It's probably like 25 years. Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
know.
so it's got to be in that ballpark.
Yeah,
AJ
maybe
and I
actually.
met- AJ
I
and we
delivered-
had class together in high school, but
Yeah.
we kind of knew of each other years prior. I don't.
Well,
Maybe
to go
the Little
back-
League or something.
Actually, I found Jake's article in PW Insider, or not Pro Wrestling Illustrated, because he had wrote a list of them.
Yeah, let's
I
not
like
talk about PW Insider.
forget that. But I was Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and I remember I went up to AJ and I said, "Hey, this kid's from Griswold. Do you know him?" And I think he had a class with you at that time, and then he ended up talking to you about it and shit. And
Well-
yeah. that was
Well, the
pretty-
funny thing is that I wouldn't have known him at the time because I was only like 12 when I was delivering newspapers.
Ah.
But I used to deliver my newspaper route was actually going up Taylor Hill Road, and St. John Road was off of that, and that was one of the streets that I had on my newspaper route. So I delivered newspapers to everybody on that, including the I believe it was your grandparents' farm.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, so I delivered newspapers, including to that farm. So that's when I was 12 years old, for Christ's sake. So even though I may not have known Jake in that time period because he is a couple years younger, I knew the family. I believe his cousin Eric was in my class when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, something like that. So
Took some trips together. We went to Madison Square Garden on a school bus. On that note, AJ, all right, okay, Jake. Before we get off, I think Joe wanted to do one more poem.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's do one
Yeah,
more. and
read
then
one more. And I mean, I
keep
just
it.
want to throw in, I'm not the same age as you guys, but I'm like kind of tangentially connected through the Lucases. Friends with Josh,
Right.
and you guys would watch pay-per-views with Jay.
Yeah. The Lucases are just really good people. They're excellent.
Yeah,
There's a-
100%. Now, if you want to give
there's
us,
another one. I played baseball with Jay Lucas. He was on my senior league baseball team.
now, if
He's
you
gonna
want to
read one
give
more,
us
AJ.
one more poem, and then we'll go into tonight's card so we can catch MLW, because I'm on the edge of my seat for tonight.
I'll read this one. Interstellar. I want to stand down on the shores of the old lake with you. Incandescent beams spiral down and lasso us. A luminous embrace. Fingers entwined. I want your skin touching mine. Stars littering the night. Cosmic dust falls from our hair and lips. Your eyes echo the galaxy that has me, pulls me to my knees.
Once we're done.
Amazing. Now, if you guys want to catch some more of these poems, Night Full of Diamonds, Jake St. John on Amazon. If you're lucky enough, maybe you can even get him to sign one if you see him out and about. But guys,
So
We-
actually, here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to go out and buy one, send it to each one of us. We'll all sign it for you, and then send it back to you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's up in the value right there. But
Yep.
talking
Goddamn right,
about
son.
up in the value, let's start with what I think's got arguably the biggest match tonight, MLW. It's their Never Say Never event. Now they've got Simon Gotch versus Jordan Oliver in a grudge match, Myron Reed versus Davari, and then the match of the night. If you guys know of a better match, let me know. Calvin Tankman versus Jacob Fatu for that MLW World Heavyweight title.
Super heavyweights. Those not familiar with Calvin Tankman, he's been a beast on the scene.
Heavyweight hustle.
Heavyweight hustle. He's coming out after doing a couple appearances at Bloodsport, and he dominated, looked good there. And
ECW as well.
Yep, looking great here. MLW's built him, brought him along right, and Jacob Fatu's been champ for over a year. And I mean, the guy's over 300 pounds, and his finishing move is basically the best moonsault ever. Which, by the way, Christopher Daniels did call him out on at a recent show. He said, there's a few guys, not many guys use my hold. I'll say one, Jacob Fatu, and I was like, oh, CD, let people know. But there is a difference. I mean, Jacob Fatu is 350 pounds in doing that, so.
Yeah, that's some major athleticism that he's showing there.
Mm-hmm.
Fatu's, I wasn't too familiar with him until recently when I got back into MLW, and he's just there's just something different about him. I love the whole background and everything.
Yeah, the
And
Samoan
he's had
dynasty.
such a dominant title run.
Yes.
That's not something that's presented in wrestling too often anymore. And it's amazing to see it when it is.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah, the only person who's had title run anything like that recently is Walter. Yeah.
Yeah, NXT UK and MLW, for whatever reasons, those are like your longer title range. You're getting over a year still with these guys.
Now, speaking of NXT, do you want to run down the NXT card for us, Dave?
Yeah. Forgive me on this one name here. All right, so it's Xia Lin and Mei Ling are teaming up tonight. Now, Mei Ling is the one in these like sketches or whatever, basically, that's been like trying to motivate Xia Li. So apparently she's going to be involved tonight in the actual match, and it's against.
And they're taking on Caden Carter and Casey Catanzaro, right?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And the other real big thing to note here is Roderick Strong wrestling one
He's
of my
going
favorite
to the moon, brother.
Going to the moon. Cameron Grimes. I love this guy. And they're both going to be doing double duty because they'll be in a 12-man battle royal, gauntlet style, so Royal Rumble style. And the winner of that is going to go on to night 2 to face Johnny Wrestling for the North American title. It's probably going to be Dexter Lumis. I don't want that. I would prefer it's Roderick Strong or, you got to figure it's going to be a baby face. I'm looking at some of the names in here, like Pete Dunne's in this, Austin Theory, Isaiah Swerve Scott, LA Knight, Jake Atlas, Leon Ruff, Tyler Rust, and Kushida. I mean, I'd love if Kushida and him got a big push. And
I would love to see Pete. I would love to see Pete Dunne go through.
Yeah, if they were going to do like a heel thing, I mean, oh my God, Pete Dunne would be a great way to go. And Roderick Strong's probably like a tweener right now, but he's somebody that, man, I'd love to see them do that. Randy
Theory could be in an angle too with Gargano.
That's right, because they're together technically, so you could do something with that.
I think no matter who wins this, I'm looking forward to that match, and that doesn't happen too often in NXT or WWE, where you've got like a 12-person battle royal, and I'll take any of them.
I'll tell you this: one thing going in tonight, like maybe I'm leaning towards AEW, but tonight is because like last week I watched both shows, and NXT did such a good job of building towards TakeOver. It almost felt like the go-home show last week. Like I was ready for Walter Ciampa. They did the contract signing with Cole and O'Reilly, as we talked about. It was so well done, even though we've seen those 1,000 times. They did a great job. And now, like, I'm ready for that. Like, bring me into next week because I'm ready to watch Cross and Balor. You know?
Walter and Ciampa might not just steal the show on TakeOver, but they might steal all of WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah. That's night 1, too. And actually, I pity the girls, and I love the girls, but they have to follow Walter and Ciampa. And I pity anybody that has to follow Walter Ciampa. That's not a slight. Like, that's the match I want to see.
How long has it been since Walter's been in action? I haven't kept up with NXT UK.
He had those crazy good matches with Dragunov and
Oh my
another
God, those
wrestler
matches were
named
insane.
A Kid, who a lot of people probably aren't familiar with yet, but him and A Kid, who's the Heritage Champion, and I'm not calling it a kid. That's literally his name, A Kid.
No, A Kid. If
Yeah.
you were, I'm only vaguely familiar with that British scene, and I remember I've seen matches of his. I couldn't pick him out, but I've heard of him before.
I mean, look back, even like going back a year or so ago, Walter and Tyler Bate, like they tore it up for like 45, 50 minutes. I mean, Walter is just, he's this guy. He's going to get people over, but at the same time, beat the hell out of him and look like a monster. He's another level to me.
I just watched within the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think I sent you guys a text, the Walter Dragunov match, and my gosh, it was just unbelievable.
Nothing like it nowadays.
Yeah, the chops to the back of the neck.
Just in case you're wondering how much I like the British scene, I might be the only person who actually has the Progress app on their phone. That's I actually play it and actually put it up on my TV watching the Progress matches.
I will say this. I was surprised. I checked out Peacock the other day, and obviously they don't have nearly the stuff we did, and it's a work in progress, but I was happy to see they had some Progress wrestling on there. So that's going to be included, and they're working on that. So I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "I got hope there." You're going to give me some
if you want to see some of the guys in their younger days, they've got great singles matches with guys like Angelico on there.
Mm-hmm.
They've got all of the British superstars that you can imagine. They got young Tony Storm starting off on there. It's worth checking out.
Yeah, the UK scene is such a great area. It's got a lot of great action. I get caught in the rabbit hole every now and then. I watched Minoru Suzuki in the UK recently, and then from there, it just one match after another, and they're all just fantastic.
One of my
Rev
favorites
Pro was another one in addition to Progress that puts out some good matches.
One of my favorites that we're not seeing enough of anymore is Tyler Bates. I love seeing Tyler Bates, just so hard hitting.
Hit us with it.
Let's
Are we ready for
round
some
out
AEW?
AEW tonight.
I
Big
got you
main
here.
event: Omega and the Good Brothers versus the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid.
We got Christian Cage's in-ring debut versus Frankie Kazarian.
Glad to see Frankie getting the spotlight in this match. I know Christian's probably going to win this, but it's just nice to see Frankie get some spotlight. He's a talent that's been so underused because he's just so good, and I think he's one of those guys that when you got a young roster and you got so many stars like AEW does, you know, obviously Frankie's been in there, but man, he's a guy with the right timing. He could be a main event guy. I just feel kind of like so much talent.
On being the elite, you see a lot more of Frankie's personality. Yeah. And if they bring some of that to AEW Dynamite, I think it's going to go a far way.
Yeah, I said this after the air, but I'm not going to jump. But we were talking about the exhibition tonight. QT Marshall and Cody, Iron Man special referee. I'm telling you, I just want to get this out. Like, I really think they're going to copy the Larry Zbyszko, Bruno Sammartino thing, and QT is going to end up like when Cody's letting him in the ropes or something like that's going to happen. He's going to end up taking a chair to him, low blowing him, beating the shit out of him.
Now, is it going to be compelling, or is it just going to be like a wet fart?
Cody usually knows how to make his shit compelling. I'll give him that. Like, as far as in the ring goes, if you look at his stuff with MJF, Jericho, when Cody gets his chance to sink his teeth into a story, it's usually pretty good. Now, he's got his work cut out for him. Nothing against QT in the ring, but people don't find him believable.
Speaking of wet farts, we've got the Arcade Anarchy match.
I was going to ask what you guys were less excited for, Arcade Anarchy or QT.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you one more prediction on this one too, though. Chuck and Orange are going to win this. They're going to pin Kip, and Miro is going to beat the shit out of everybody. I feel that's what they're setting up.
I pray to God that that's what happens.
He keeps that. In fact, they've even somebody tweeted out on Twitter about calm down, guys. Like, he's going to eventually get there. Miro's more than happy in the position he's in right now. And Miro actually tweeted back to the guy, I am? No, I want world title matches. And I was like, so good. But I also feel that's where they're building him. And if you look, Miro even told Kip, like, I don't care about you or your wife, but I will still have your back because I'm your best friend. But what you're really saying is, I'm going to beat the shit out of you if you cost me this match.
Didn't I feel like back last maybe May, Tony Khan gave an interview, and they asked him about Miro, and he said, with COVID and everything going on, there's a lot of plans just aren't where they would normally be, and they're kind of holding off. And Miro's got to be one of those guys because everyone was expecting the main event to come in, and then he was the best man at a wedding.
Well, you talk about that it factor, and this is a guy who, even when the WWE was trying to bury him, has that it factor and getting over.
Yeah, and I will say this too. One more thing too. Like, if you look at him in the ring, despite even the storyline isn't now, even in AEW, that people aren't happy about, but you look at him in the ring, the intensity he brings, it's amazing. To me, this guy's. If you let him roll with it, I think we could have another Walter.
I would love to see matches with him and Lance Archer.
Yeah,
Lance, another one potential. Yeah,
he's Lance Archer. That kind of I followed him early TNA.
Yeah,
and then with Davey Boy Jr. over in Japan, and then
oh god, that Killer Elite Squad
I
was one of
love
the more badass tag teams.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and then him with Roberts, I still don't understand the whole why he needs Jake Roberts, but
because Jake needs to get paid.
Exactly.
It almost makes it feel like Lance Archer is missing something with Jake there.
Yeah.
It's like, why do we need him here? And why does Lance not feel like what he was in Japan?
And the problem is Lance Archer actually can talk.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Jake. There's plenty of guys in AEW that would absolutely benefit from having Jake. I just don't think Lance Archer is one of them. He doesn't need a mouthpiece, where plenty of guys could learn from Jake.
It's also a segment tonight. MJF has a gift for the Pinnacle. You talk about not needing a mouthpiece. That was just a great segue. That guy.
That's going to be a very interesting segment. I'm not usually into their non-wrestling segments, but what could it be? I'm
hoping it's a valet.
That would be something.
Speaking of matches that just don't matter, you've got John Moxley versus Cesar the Statue Banani.
Yeah, that could headline like Dark Elevation or Dark. It seems a little weird that it's on Dynamite.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? They had a thing. You guys might have heard about this. Cesar and Luchasaurus messed up a match on Dark, and they blew the spot, and they actually called it in the ring to redo it. For whatever reason, it didn't get edited. So people were kind of joking about that. And then on Being the Elite the other week, these two ran into each other, went to shake each other's hand, messed up the handshake. And they're like, should we redo it? And Lucha's no, never redo it. Never redo it. I was like, all right, that's pretty funny. Good for them.
The last time I saw this kind of movement in the ring was probably either the Giant Gonzalez or the Yeti.
It's not that bad. That's bad. Like that.
Yeah,
it's weird that
Banani's
he's
bad.
NXT and he's not like a top level talent. Because he was in that WWE system, and he just
wasn't even
like it.
They got that one right. I'm going to pick on him for that.
He has a great look, but he has no coordination or movement in the ring whatsoever.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at, he's just kind of getting matches on Dark, and they're probably just taking their time with him because they realize he has a look, and we'll see. Because like Ty Conte, now she was a girl I thought that was improving in NXT. But they didn't have room for her. They had a lot of talent there. And now I think she's improving even more in AEW.
She's ranked number one.
Favorite, but she's getting up there, and I see improvement with her.
She's actually number one champion against the Bunny and Nyla Rose tonight.
What a weird team that is.
She's the number one contender. She beat Nyla Rose last week.
She did? No, I'm not saying. Yeah, I don't think she's taking the belt off Shida. I think they've been building Shida up as a solid champion for a while. That's got to eventually. I think it's got to be Britt Baker or Thunder Rosa. At this point, they became the two biggest stars after a couple weeks ago in that match that they had, which was amazing.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Unfortunately, Anna Jay got injured because I think Ty Conte is now getting the push that was going to go to Anna Jay. Mm-hmm. And so I think that she's a little lucky that her friend got hurt. But I definitely like Ty Conte and I like Anna Jay.
So,
now, guys, we're going to end out this show like we usually do with everybody giving us your match of the night. And then
I thought
Jake,
it was going to be circle prayer.
And then Jake, if we could talk you into one last prayer or one last fucking home to lead us out, if we could. I'm going to go Tattoo Tank.
Father Jake,
Heathens. We are heathens.
Now, mine's obviously Fatu Tankman. Dave, who are you liking?
Yeah. So what I'm looking forward to the most tonight, I'm gonna say seeing Kristen Cage back in the ring after 8 years. Even though he looked great in the Royal Rumble, having that one-on-one match, that's what I'm looking forward to most. Just to see how he's gonna be in there. I'm a huge Christian Cage guy. Him and Edge both. It's no secret. I said this on the show before. I hope Edge wins the world title at some point again, and I hope Kristen wins the world title, and I hope we have a little photo op eventually. Now, I'm not saying Kristen gets a long run with the title. I realize there's so much young talent, but it would just warm my heart to see that one time.
I would love a run with Bryan and Edge feuding over the title. That'd be
1,000%. I know we're getting off that, but oh my god, yeah. To me, that's why SmackDown is so much better than Raw these days. It's like look who's on top. It's like it's like we got Bryan, we got Edge, and I was actually just listening to a fantasy thing like if you could pick a triple threat match out of any time period, and somebody picked Angle, Bret Hart, and Bryan Danielson, and I was like, tomorrow, sign me up.
Well, the fact of the matter is Roman Reigns doesn't need the title, so why not put it on two guys?
He's a great talker, though. I mean, he's done good in his role.
Yeah,
I'm
he
not
doesn't
upset
need
with him. No. I'm not saying, but another reason why the show's been better.
So speaking of better shows, my match of the night, I wanted to say Christian Cage, but unfortunately I can't agree with Dave. So I'm going to go, actually, I feel horrible saying this. It just doesn't feel right coming out. QT Marshall and Cody. I want to see what's going to happen there. Okay. I want to see if they can actually make QT Marshall.
And that's okay. On that note, Jake, what are you looking for?
I think the most compelling, the angle-wise, is what's going to come out of Cody and QT. But I think the match that I'm looking forward to watching would be Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid against Kenny and the Good Brothers. Phoenix is one of the most dynamic wrestlers in the entire world, and whatever storyline's going on with Kenny, I just think there's a lot that can happen in there. And I don't know. I think that I don't want to call it a sleeper match, because the Lucha Brothers, any match that they're in, somebody might die. That all of them. I just think the whole formula together there is pretty fun.
Phoenix is this generation's Rey Mysterio, in my opinion. He's just so amazing.
Yep.
And I love what he's doing with Kenny. Oh, go ahead. So let's end it off.
Jake, can we get one more poem to take us out? And
absolutely.
Guys, we will join you next week.
I throw my heart onto the fire. It snaps and pops. Embers mix with stars. Flames dance in a frenzy, like the thoughts ignited in my head. The trees stand tall, dropping shadows that cover me. Pinned down by the darkest hours. You escape my lips in a whisper.